this series that become a seeker. So when we are a seeker, then 50% of the journey is already done. Mind, body, our attitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything is with us. So, in the very first, we talked about if the mind lives in fourth subjective state. So, we discussed about one pointedness. But this one pointedness of the mind is different than concentration of psychology. We say oscillation of attention and bring the mind back. That is how we focus. We have to make an effort. So, in the second, we discovered yes, Sarah, first time I see you. How are you? Second time. She remembers.
I'm good. Thank you.
She is good. So, so we become a human being. The human being means the intellect is alive, and the mind follows the intellect. We also understand that good work is not enough. We say, I have been very kind to you and you have cheated me because you are so kind to me without knowing. That is why I cheated you. There is it. So we need to understand that the good work alone is not enough. No, you go outside uh, in a in a mall and you say I'm a very good guy. I do lot of good works. Can you support me? Nobody is going to support you. It does not mean that we should not be doing the good work. But that alone is not enough in the journey of self discovery. Do you remember we discussed about evolved, evolving, and to be evolved? So, if you understand that the entire yoga Eastern wisdom is, is based on this principle. We also discussed about four connections moving within and living within. And last week we understood the very basics of Eastern wisdom. I used the two words Mangala Charan. Mangala auspiciousness, Charan means feet. So the real meaning walk the path rightly and properly. But keeping aside ego. That is the essence of namaste. We do namaste. Namaste. And I forget myself. So it does not make any change. Now I have been doing namaste to you for the last 3 years, and you have not responded me. So that is also not namaste. You maintain your ego. You know, I meet a lot of people. They have their different expressions. I said, okay, that is the way the life works. So now understand clearly this mind has emotions, feelings, habits, and impulses. Before I begin with the new topic today, that is very important, it is known as the Fourfold practices. So I'll just give the introduction and then we will pick up one, uh, one practice every session so that the things becomes clear and you will find that the life starts changing. Your behavior, your attitude, your personality, your responses to the thing starts changing every day. If that does not change, then you are not attending my lesson. Then who is responsible? I'm responsible. because I'm responsible for your life. You have to do nothing. So, mind, you understand the difference between the mind and the intellect. This mind has emotion, feeling, habits, impulses. When we succumb to our feeling, emotions like grief, pain, then we are guided by the mind. So when we are guided by the mind, the intellect is hiding behind. We cannot take a right decision. Take an example. You met with a uh, unwanted incident and you are crying. How should I respond to you? So your mind expects, oh, please be sympathetic to me, hug me, pat me. How many times? Every time you get upset, huh? I should again pat you. So mind is still expecting. That mind which is expecting things from outside will never change. Remember this. If the mind is stronger than the intellect, you are gone. Take an example, just a simple example. 100% intellect is in service at all time. You are a wise person. You are a seeker. 75% intellect is in service. Mind is 25%, makes you emotional. So, what we were talking about, David, introduction to fourfold practices. Uh, it has been written, I would say, 6,000 years ago. So, we started talking mind has emotion, feeling, habits, and impulses. If the mind is stronger than the intellect, then what happens? Mind is stronger than the intellect, then we are a gone case. So I was giving an example. If you put 100% intellect is in service, you see how much respect Eastern wisdom gives to the intellect. So first we respect the intellect and then we give direction to the intellect through these principles. That makes you a seeker. So 75% intellect is in service and the mind is 25% makes you emotional. You have an obsession 50-50, 50% intellect, 50% mind. Forgetfulness. Oh, you told me that I should not get emotional and habitual, but what should I do? 50-50. And when the 25% intellect is in service, you have a wandering mind. You are almost a non seeker. According to our teachings, the mind imagines, tricks, distracts, reacts, angers, misleads, weakens you, goes for instant pleasure, leads to pain. So, how should I understand in my daily life the moment you have a pain, become alert, allow the intellect to put the intellect into service. And the intellect always like to see what is truth, right and good in life. Keep focus, builds your strength, takes a journey to the happiness. Mind bluffs by going to what mind likes and pleasant for us. Intellect says, calm down. Where they both are living in you, they both are in you. Eastern wisdom respects intellect, but totally in a different direction. So we have understood with that reference the four connections in the previous session. And now is the time to understand what we say. Brief. I will give you a brief in this session of fourfold practices. It means there are four groups of practices. So let me put it straight away that this fourfold practices contains 9 simple steps and practices, 3 hidden practices, and thousands of secondary practices that you are aware. So if I talk about the secondary practices, you know about asanas, pranayama, huh? Then mudra, then mantra, mala, law, thousands and thousands of practices. Primary practices are 9. Out of the 9, 3 are practices that pertains to intellect. If we don't use this intellect, you are doing a secondary practices of the asana, then what your mind says, do headstand pose for 1 hour. The blood will in rush to the brain, and then you will be in meditation. How the blood has to do with the meditation? That we don't understand. So now let us pick up the first 3 uh, hidden. You can say hidden practices. This is also a hidden practices when you are listening to me. This is what my master used to say. I learned it long back. It took me many years. He used to say, "No, listen to me." I said, "No, he has a big ego. That's why he's saying that. Listen to me." But gradually, I understood that what he is talking about the principles. So every time you are listening, what happens? The intellect is triggered. Intellect says, "Oh, here is an option. Why I'm doing like this? Let me change." So this very no why I say hidden practice, because it doesn't appear. Listening is not a practice. So the word is coined by our master satsanga. Satsangatve nisasangatvam. A constant listening and learning of these principles expressed by the teacher in variety of ways or personalized helps our mind to move towards detachment. Say one principle. Your honey gets irritated all the time, it is his or her nature. Now you are listening to it. So, what you have heard, that it is his or her problem, it is her and his level of mind. That is why she or she is reacting. You have heard it, it is digested, the new event comes, mind says, okay, okay, you are right, honey, I'm okay. You leave him or her, continue to get hesitate. You keep aside your ego. It's a very subtle format. Try to think it over and send me the feedback. Even you can ask the questions. I'll make it. So, first thing, satsang is very important until we reach to a certain stage where my mind cannot take over the intellect. The first hidden practice, satsang, that is known as the satsang. Now, the second practice, that your mind is now clear, that the person becomes angry or reacting because of him and her, not because of me. It is his and her way to respond to a situation. So, why should I accept his or her reaction or anger? You might have seen a couple of sessions, people have reacted, and I said, okay, enjoy the life. So, what happens? The most beautiful thing happens when you live into that state. The knowledge that is settled in the head goes down to your heart. It emotionally charges you. That is one way to say that you are living in a present moment. And then the heart, that you get a higher vision of your life, the highest vision of your life, my friend, that I have to evolve. I have found the clue. It gives you a tremendous power. So I'll be explaining today. I'm just briefing all that. Now, what you see, the knowledge is 100% clear. Now the intellect is ruling here. The intellect passes on the knowledge to the heart, and the heart will pass on the knowledge to the hands. Your karma, your action, your behavior, your attitude, your response to the world outside changes. First time you feel this is the power of the Eastern wisdom. So the three hidden practices are there. We will continue. So every entire journey of the Eastern wisdom is based on that. Intellect is 100% clear about the knowledge. Now I say close your eyes and you just look inside. So your mind looks inside, it does not wander outside. That is what it becomes, being a seeker. Now, coming to the six practices, you should be very clear. Last session we did it, what we did, Mangala Charan and Namaste. So we keep aside our ego completely and we walk the path rightly and properly with a teacher. But again, understand the human teacher is a pointer, simply a pointer. Nothing less, nothing more than that. So until the seeker perceives the teacher as a pointer, nothing happens. And it happens only when you start thinking. What does it mean? I just passed on the principle to you. So whenever you are free, just close your eyes and think, oh, let me see what principle, what was the principle. I have to learn, I have to listen. Make that principle your own by contemplation and thinking. So, in the first three hidden practices, teacher plays not, it is an important role. Now, come to the three knowledge practice. You can practice that inside your head. I want to know my real self. Yes. So, I want to know my real self. At present, our mind has a mixed reality. What is that mixed reality? Mixed reality is that I am the body. But Eastern wisdom says I am the real self. So I have to separate this body in the mind through the power of discernment. So that is known as the first practice. We will deal with in detail. It is known as viveka, the discernment. You don't have the power of discernment, no practice of yoga, meditation, mindfulness is possible. Buddha said in first of the Eightfold Noble Path, where he said, right knowledge. He starts with the right knowledge. So I have to separate right knowledge with my false notions that I have. And we have millions of false notions. Millions of false notions that we have accumulated in our life. You are doing meditation. You have a problem with the honey. Honey makes some noise. The mind goes there. Mind goes. I'm just giving a simple example. Yeah, you are not fully settled. So if I separate that, what the honey has to do with my meditation, even if she or he did not make a noise intentionally, I have to do nothing. So I have to separate the false notion with the right notion. This is known as the discernment. And as you grow in the power of discernment, the second result is naturally the dispassion comes. Dispassion comes that you are not at all carried away by the mind. You are not ready to react, blame, and complain. So these two are knowledge practice. We will deal with it in detail, and then you will understand how powerful they are. So after that, there are six practices. They are known as the inner treasures, wealth, inner wealth of the intellect and the mind and the body. So the first treasure is peace. How to consciously enter into that state of relaxation and calmness. So now you understand that relaxation and calmness is the beginning of a meditation, but it is not what the meditation is, a byproduct of meditation. My master used to say, you are at the highest level of the peace. You have achieved the highest of meditation. You are at the middle level of the peace. The mind, you know how to move the mind within instantly and get away from the reaction. It may happen, casually, it's okay, but gradually you live into that state of wisdom, and you have a lower level of peace. Then your peace and calmness is alternating. Sometimes you have pain, and then you join this session, you feel, oh, what a good teacher, what a good practice. Huh? But again, you forget it, you again go back. So, second treasure is known as Dhamma. What is that Dhamma? Dhamma literally means that your intellect has a power to withdraw the mind inside instantly. We will understand how to do that. Huh? So once we have been doing in different steps of the meditation, but now we will become aware. This is what we are doing, and this is how we are doing. So once you have the right knowledge, you have a clarity. You see that you live in the world, but the world does not live in you. The third, if I translate, it is known as uparati, but if I say, at present the mind is sitting over us. So uparati means the sitting over the mind, sitting above the mind. You see a person, the mind reacts, sit over the mind. Mind pacifies that reaction. You live into that state of the calmness. Is it possible? Yes, it is 100% possible. That makes you a perfect seeker. Now, see, there are millions of impressions. You have been doing the practice. Stephen was telling me we have been doing the together, I think, for more than a year. But then he honestly confessed that, I wanted to explode. So even after doing regular practice, our past impressions that have been accumulated for over the years, that explodes. I know this is not right. I know this is not right, and still my mind takes over me. What should I do? That comes the fourth treasure. That fourth treasure is known as titiksha. Titiksha. Titiksha means endurance. Sometimes we see that mind is constantly troubling me, but I know how to live into the peace, so I do not allow it to be expressed outside by the practice of endurance. So it has nothing to do with the suppression. That also we will understand. And the fifth, once you do these four practices, what happens? Your mind develops a kind of a faith that there is definitely something which he is talking about, real self. So what happens? You develop a kind of a faith in yourself. And what was our first lesson in becoming a seeker? That it is one pointedness. So, by doing these 8 practices, I told you the 9 primary practices, out of which majority are to be done inside based in the intellect. So, when you reach there, you get one pointedness state. And the moment you get a one pointedness state, you become a seeker. And once you are a seeker, you cannot leave the practice. You may leave me. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. I have 100 teachers. I left many, and ultimately I stick to one. So, because then what happens? There's some spark, that spark of awareness grows in you. And you are lying down, it will not leave you until the journey is complete. You have that, you have that trigger. You wake up in the morning, you have that trigger. You're talking, communicating to your boss or your friend, and you realize the mind is reacting, no, let me withdraw myself. So that awareness inside, that spark inside helps you every moment in your life. Then every problem becomes an opportunity in the life of a seeker. That is the power of these uh, fourfold practices. So when you do all these fourfold practices, you find, yes, now I know what it means by becoming a seeker. And that is why I have chosen that topic. So remember, what do you remember? There are 3 hidden practices.